Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Fan Appreciation Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at a sci-fi film from 1985. That movie is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Now, I have watched the first two Mad Max films earlier this month, and with both of them, I cited that even though both of them have got some rather glaring flaws, the movies were able to compensate for those flaws and wind up absolutely amazing. According to almost every person who's told me about Beyond Thunderdome, the movie's flawed and they don't compensate for shit. I have no idea if any of that's accurate because, again, I haven't seen it. I think I maybe saw a trailer once when I was like 10, and even then, my memory of that's so fucking fuzzy. It is not even funny. I have no idea if this thing is going to be any good. I genuinely don't. And the only way I'm going to find out if it is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Okay, guys, I'm going to say this right now. I have no problem with Tina Turner's music. In fact, I honestly think it's really good. It doesn't work with Mad Max. I'm going to tell you that right now. After the first two films had such a, ominous score that just sounded so awesome, to open the third one with a fucking Tina Turner song just feels wrong to me, guys. Okay, I honestly am no expert when it comes to disarming bombs, but if you're trying to disarm a bomb that's in a vehicle, I really don't think you should be doing it in a very closed quarters place like this, where there's, people, animals, and everything else around, because that would lead to a whole shit ton of, property damage. Don't you think maybe you would try to wheel that fucker outside and try to, disarm the bomb, just so that way there's less risk of property damage? I don't know, guys. Perhaps, honestly, I'm just thinking a little bit too much into this, but just seems a little off to me. Guys, the very concept of a, fight to the death inside of the Thunderdome sounded really cool. But now, guys, that Max and Blaster are strapped onto these fucking, bungee cords, it seriously happens to feel less fucking like a gladiatorial death match, and it just sort of feels like a rejected, really shitty event from American Gladiators. This seriously, guys, doesn't even look cool. It just looks incredibly fucking stupid. Okay. I think I'm completely fucking lost. So, Max was banished to the desert where he was left for dead. And now a bunch of, warrior tribal children have taken him and they think he's some Captain Walker. Are we ever going to get any kind of explanation for any of this? Because I have no clue what the fuck is going on, guys. If these kids want to know who he is, if he isn't Captain Walker, couldn't they just, ask him his fucking name? I really have a feeling that Max would at least tell them that. Or did the fucking writers just not bother to think, maybe ask him his name, because that would make some fucking sense. I swear to God, guys, this movie, I really wanted it to be good, but it's slowly getting worse. Okay, I actually have been meaning to ask this ever since the fucking fight between Max and Blaster. Now, these movies were built on a fuel shortage, right? How the hell, then, can Border Town have gas-powered chain fucking saws and have no problem at all? I could have sworn that fuel was such a goddamn, luxury that people would kill for it, yet Border Town has enough people to just fill up fucking chainsaws and frivolously just saw away at anything. I'm sorry, it really kind of bugs me, guys. My God, that was fucking terrible. Well, guys, that was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Jesus fuck, let me shut that shit off. Okay. My God, just... what the fuck happened to this series? Alright, well, I said at the very start that almost every person who's told me about this franchise all warned me about the third one, and they all said that it sucked. I'm going to tell you right now, I was totally prepped for it to kind of suck. I seriously, guys, was completely expecting it to kind of suck a little. I wasn't expecting it to suck this fucking much, though. It's good. Fuck. The hell was that? Okay, anyway. Jesus, God. Alright, let's start with the writing. I am convinced. And there is no way any human being can tell me otherwise. This piece of shit did not start life as a Mad Max movie. I know it, and any human being who's watched this fucking thing knows it. And I can tell you why. There are a ton of reasons why this thing is clearly not a Mad Max movie, because the writers were too lazy to actually try to cover up the fact that they just took some random fucking like sci-fi flick and slapped Max's name on it. Number one, our main character is never given a name. The only time that Mad Max's name is ever given or seen is when the title shows up on screen. That's it. When he is in Bartertown, he is the man with no name. And when the tribal kids see him, they fucking think he's Captain Walker, and no matter how many times he tells them he's not Captain Walker, the stupid motherfuckers they still insist that he is Captain Walker. And even honestly, when they finally give up on thinking that he's Captain Walker, they still fucking call him Captain. So he is never called Max once in the entire film. In fact, the only thing that even closely connects the main character to this film, to the first two Mad Max movies, is the fact that he is a former cop and the fact that he's wearing Max's outfit from the Road Warrior. That's it. Oh, and he still has the same streak of gray hair that was in the Road Warrior. That's it, alright? Honest to fuck, that is the only thing connecting it, is that the main character here at one point was a cop, and he has a streak of gray hair, and he has a leather jacket with a single, like, shoulder pad. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Oh yes, and also a whole lot of the people in Bartertown, similar to characters in the Road Warrior, are dressed up in some kind of bizarro mix of bondage gear and football pads. So they all basically look like sexually deviant sports fans. Beyond that, there's nothing else really connecting it. I don't remember at any point in the first two films them ever mentioning a fucking nuclear war, which seems to be what fucked over the world in this thing. I happen to remember a whole lot of talk about a fuel shortage, which actually was the driving force behind the second film, is that there's no more fucking gas anywhere. Gas was an absolute luxury. Well, I mean, honestly, people actually stop fucking thinking about gas as a luxury when you have the big chase scene at the very end of the second film, but it was still a huge plot point that gas is a very rare thing. Now, you would think that if this thing is in the same world and there is no mention of somebody striking mountains of fucking oil, that you would think that you wouldn't see gas-powered chain fucking saws, you know, in multiple points in this film, and you do, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly who in the hell thought it was a good idea in a world that has been fucking established to have almost no fuel left, to go and waste it on a chainsaw that really serves no purpose when you're not sawing, you know, wood or anything else that a chainsaw would be used for. It's just a real minor fucking thing. I totally understand that. But also, it's very odd that they all of a sudden mention a nuclear war here, when it was never even vaguely implied in the previous two films. It seems completely out of fucking left field, which tells me that somebody may have dropped a nuke between the second film and this one. And if that is the case, then that leaves a massive plot hole, because that means then Because that means then because that means then that the entire wasteland would just be one gigantic nuclear fuck off zone, and no human being would be able to live in it. Period. Every single person would be dead within minutes simply from radiation poisoning. Of course, also if a nuke dropped between the first and the second films, the same goddamn thing would have happened. Every single person would have been dead within minutes. The very fact that they wanted to shoehorn in nuclear war in here, it just completely throws everything off, and it really makes you question what happened in the previous films and whether or not this thing is in any way connected. And since I am still 100%, certain that this worthless mess did not start off as a Mad Max film, that's probably exactly what happened. Is they just probably grabbed some film, nuclear war, fuck it, we'll just work it in. It doesn't work for me, guys. I'm really sorry. Now that I'm done bitching about the lack of connectivity between this thing and the previous two films, let's talk about the movie itself. Let's actually delve into this movie's writing. It's terrible. This film feels incredibly, and I mean incredibly, episodic to an absolute fault. Because it starts with Max going to Bartertown, and everything is all set in Bartertown for like the first 45 minutes or so, and you're thinking, okay, cool, that works. Then he gets banished, and then he goes and runs into these like tribal kids, and it feels like a totally different fucking film. It seriously, guys, almost fucking feels as if this thing could have been like a whole bunch of like theatrical shorts. Because you could literally like cut this thing probably into good, even like 20-minute chunks, and it would have worked out great, because you basically have plot elements which come up and are then closed off within fucking 20 minutes. There really is no straight through, line. This whole thing started because Max wanted property of his which was stolen, and he never got a bit of it back, because that obviously would, because when he is banished, he obviously loses, fucking ownership of his car, his camels, and his monkey, and everything else which showed, actually now his monkey went back to him at one point. But still, this thing, it seriously, guys, does not feel like one film. It actually just feels like a bunch of short films that somebody just randomly like stitched up and said, here we go, good enough. The story here, even if you were to look at the story as a single straight narrative, it's still a really poorly written narrative. Because our characters have no fucking depth at all. Which, okay, considering the fact that the second Mad Max movie essentially had summed up that Max was now just a hollow shell of a human being, which is just their way of saying that we don't have to give him, character. Him, I'm willing to give a pass to, but everybody else, no. There has to be a reason for us to give even half a shit about any of these characters, and we don't. We have fucking Bartertown, which is basically just a whole bunch of which basically is just a bunch of scumbags, and also the rules of Bartertown are incredibly sketchy, but I don't really want to get into that, or else this video will probably be a good 45 minutes long. And then we have the tribal kids, who also have no fucking depth at all, outside of they apparently think that every single adult male with dark hair is Captain Walker. Why the fuck else would they think that Max is Captain Walker? That is still something which just floors me, is when you finally see a photo of Captain Walker, because these kids have one, which you have to look at in their little, in their little like customized like Viewmaster. Captain Walker looks nothing like Max outside of having dark hair. So, oh, and also being male. It's very weird, guys. The writing here, I could probably go on, guys, about the fucking writing all goddamn day. Just long fucking story short, which is probably way too goddamn late at this point. The writing is absolute shit, and there's no positive which comes from the writing to this. Now, I do know that whenever I run into a film which has writing this bad, I do not expect the actors to put in a decent showing, especially when the dialogue is this absolutely horrendous. And naturally, nobody turns in a decent showing. The closest we have to a halfway decent performance is Mel fucking Gibson. However, seeing as how his character has been written to be completely fucking hollow, he honestly didn't have to put in a whole lot of effort going into this thing. And by far the worst, oh dear God, the worst actor in this entire fucking film is Tina Turner. I was totally expecting Tina's acting to suck. I was, because I've never heard of Tina Turner acting outside of this, and I just could not picture her putting in a halfway decent showing. She fucking phones it in because apparently no one ever gave her acting lessons. Her fucking performance is the most wooden thing in here. Which, considering the fact that half the fucking cast is made up of children, and children naturally are shit actors in the first place, and every single one of them can act rings around her, that is fucking criminal. Alright? I wish that Tina Turner would have at least put a little bit of care into trying to build up her bullshit character and actually try to act a little bit. But no, instead she phones it in, and her scenes, and every single one of her scenes, this movie just dies a slow, awful, painful fucking death. Her acting sucks, but then again, the acting on everybody else also kind of sucks because the script was that bad. But she fucking stands out. That is one of the worst performances I've seen in years. Correction. That is one of the worst. That is one of the worst performances I've seen in years from a major studio film. Because you know what? I honestly, guys, have seen acting that bad in shit like, let's see, like say like The Room or Birdemic. But guess what? Those honestly were little fucking indie. Those there were little fucking like indie films, and bad acting is kind of sort of par for the course with those. This thing here was made by fucking Warner Brothers, and they couldn't get a better actor. Oh, well, no, because they had to have the star power of Tina Turner, and they had to have her song in the opening credits, which wasn't even a good Tina Turner song, I should mention. The acting in this thing, guys, is absolute shit. Costuming, well, it basically is more of the same shit from the second film. Only they've now added gigantic, poofy fucking like mohawk, fucking like mohawk helmets to this. So we now have bondage gear, sports gear, and giant fucking like mohawk helmets, which apparently are something that every human being in Barter Town must wear, because they all fucking do, and it looks ugly as shit. In fact, honestly, guys, with those giant poofy fucking mohawks, it really does make this movie absolutely scream 80s. And mind you, that honestly is normally not a bad thing. However, though, it just feels vastly different from what was seen in the first two films, when if a character had a fucking mohawk, it was a natural mohawk and it kind of looked decent. So yeah, guys, the costuming here is basically just more of the same. Soundtrack. First two films were done by a man named Brian May, who turned in absolutely fantastic scores for the first two Mad Max films. This third one, they didn't get Brian May. I don't know why, and I really want to fucking know, because this score was a piece of shit. Guys, this fucking score is one of the most overdone things I've ever heard. The very fact that the first two films were based on having subtle, haunting scores which fit everything perfectly, to then give us this ultra horn-heavy score, which you could basically picture in almost any cheesy shitbag 80s sci-fi flick, it doesn't fucking work. It completely stands out, and it really just gets grating at times, because it honestly is not even a good score at that. The music in this thing fucking sucks. guys, I swear to God, this thing is such a massive fucking letdown. It's like, if I really had to pick any positives, the camera work is good. However, though, the camera work was also good in the first two, so that is kind of sort of a given. And the lighting is good, but then again, a whole lot of it is outdoors, so you're using a whole lot of natural light, and that normally looks really fucking good. So basically, both of those are fucking givens. But then everything else here, from the writing to the acting to the soundtrack to the score, all fucking sucks. And it sucks in ways I didn't even know was possible with this franchise. I loved the first two Mad Max movies with an absolute passion. And this thing is just an absolute pile of shit. And the worst part, guys, the worst part out of all of it is that not only is this thing poorly written, but also even if this thing was supposed to be a Mad Max movie, they also completely neutered it in order to give the fucking thing a more family-friendly PG-13 rating, and it fucking shows, because there is very, very little in terms of things such as like the violence or the action that was in that was in the first two films. Action and violence and everything else that was there that could be there because we had a fucking R rating. This thing here seriously almost feels as if they basically were trying to chop off the balls of this franchise so that way more people could watch it. Well, guess what? Guess what? That is not what this series was fucking about. It was about a post-apocalyptic fuckhole where Max is basically the last piece of justice left. And in order for that to work out properly, you have to have that violence, and you have to have strong fucking writing. None of that is here with this film. This movie is an absolute insult to the fucking franchise. My God. Guys, so when all is said and done, am I able to recommend Beyond fucking Thunderdome? No, I cannot. This thing sucks as a Mad Max movie. It sucks as a sci-fi movie. This movie is absolutely fucking insulting, and no human being on this planet should ever fucking bother with it. This movie is a piece of shit. End of story. Now, because this is Fan Appreciation Month, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, as well as the other two entries in the Mad Max trilogy, came off the Amazon wishlist. The person who sent it in was Mage, and you can find her YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/MadamCrystal. Please, guys, swing over there and check out everything she has in Mage. Thank you. I totally understand. I have been just bitching for probably the last like 10, maybe 15 minutes. But I do have to thank you, because I was really curious about all three of these movies, and even with all the warnings I got about how much the third movie sucked, I was not prepared for how bad it fucking was, but still, I would not have known if you hadn't have sent it in, and for that I thank you once more, guys. That is youtube.com/user/MadamCrystal. Holy shit, that was absolutely torturous. You know what, though? I honestly am still in the mood for watching a little bit more 80s cheese, and I see my copy of The Lost Boys on my fucking Blu-ray shelf. I'm going to go watch that. So yes, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.